being ultra spiritual has nothing to do with actually being spiritual, because no one even knows what that actually is. Being ultra spiritual means you look spiritual. So let's get started.
Welcome to SocTalks.com, where inspiring authors, speakers, and masterminds share their stories with you. Let their stories ignite your passion, accelerate you on your path, and annihilate your limiting beliefs. Now, here's your host for SocTalks.com, Socrates Zayas.
All right, so boom, let's get it started. Today on SocTalks, we've got a red-haired, blue-eyed, caring-hearted, warped sense of humor human being. He also manages to be a coaching and teaching entrepreneur. He embraced both his, and healing, and he melded it all together with an authentic self and a magnetic sense of humor. I know you're thinking to yourself, well, who could be this uber charismatic enigma of a man? Well, it's none other than JP Sears. So some of you may actually be from the reptilian planet Godzilladoid. JP Sears has a very, very, very active YouTube channel where he releases videos that help people and basically to help themselves, and is highly followed for his comedy videos known as the Ultra Spiritual Series. It's all groundbreaking stuff. It's amazing. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. So JP, you ready to ignite some passions, accelerate journeys, and annihilate limiting beliefs?
Boom, Socrates. I'm here and I'm ready, as far as I can tell. And I'm drinking coffee, so I'm passionate, brother.
That's awesome. So go ahead, do me a favor. Let's fill in the blanks for the people. Who is the real JP Sears?
Yeah, well, you left out the fact that I'm incredibly handsome. I'm setting world records in handsomeness. So aside from that, the real JP Sears, I think I'm in a collage of different things. There's a comedic part of me, always been there, hopefully always will be. There's a vulnerable part of me. There's a part of me that just doesn't have my crap together, blind man stumbling through life. And definitely there's a part of me that has a caring heart. And there's a part of me that's just thirsty as hell to continue, finding more and more of my authentic self, embracing that. And I think that's a dimension of that is sharing my gifts with the world in proportion to how much I'm discovering my gifts. And and I love my dog. I think that counts too.
What kind of dog?
He is a wiener dog, a little dachshund. His 12th birthday is coming up, so we're accepting grass-fed steaks as gifts.
Hey, aren't they mean?
I don't know, but mine is about the friendliest, cuddliest guy I've ever seen.
I don't know what you know about SocTalks, but SocTalks are really about the guest stories, and I feel that stories are what create rapport, and that people resonate best with them. I think that they're more immediate to move into action because of stories. So, JP, if it'd be okay with you, I'd love it if you could share with us a failure story, a worst moment in your marketing experience.
Yeah, well, Socrates, I've never failed. Isn't it funny? Some people try to play that card. Like, oh, no. Yeah, failures, I will get into general or a specific story, but first a general thought, like failing, like when I'm in the moment of failing, and I've got so many failures, and thank God for those. I can say in hindsight, thank God for those failures. But in the moment of a failure, it feels like my worst enemy. Like I get this feeling through my body, almost like this hot, anxious, stinging feeling in my body. But it's like in hindsight, if we can fail but keep going, not become paralyzed and start living in a posture of avoidance, but if we have our failures and keep going, then I think our failures become some of our best friends, even though in the moment they feel like enemies. But there is what I would call a dramatic failure happened when I was, I believe 21. So is when I started to give workshops on emotional healing, and I had done a couple workshops, and for those workshops, I prepared well, and, they went well. And then I think it was the third one I was giving. Man, it was a failure by by anyone's standards. About 2 minutes into it, I froze up. It's like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And it was, I felt absolutely humiliated, and, all these feelings I'm putting onto myself. And honestly, here it is 14 years later, I still have dreams about that. And I still, once in a while, like I do a lot of speaking, performing, teaching, and I have these reoccurring dreams where like I show up to, run a program, and like I don't know what I'm going to say, which is really interesting. So I'm still haunted by that. But what that failure taught me was a huge lesson. One of the lessons was to watch out for my own arrogance. Because it's like, okay, at the time I'm 21, I ran a couple workshops and they went well. So I'm hot stuff. Like, of course, I've got this nailed down. Like, I didn't have 10,000 hours of experience at the time. I had like 3 hours of experience, but I thought I was hot stuff. So it was a great lesson in teaching me I have arrogance. Always have, I do, and probably always will. So I need to check it. I need to have boundaries with it rather than being controlled by it. And then it also taught me the lesson of connecting people in groups, connecting with people in groups.
Right.
And I love talking, performing, speaking to crowds. And one of the reasons why I love it now is because I connect with people. It's almost like oftentimes the crowd will teach me what to say. And I might just be drinking too much green Kool-Aid and making that kind of thing up. But that experience of feeling so humiliated and disconnected from the crowd, that really taught me the value of connecting with people, not trying to be in my head. What am I going to say, whether it's one person or 100 or 1,000? But to connect with people. So that was a failure. I didn't like living through it, but man, great lessons.
Well, you are a redhead, right? So, that's why the arrogance comes in.
Arrogance, hot temper, Viking, whatever.
Skull! No. Love the Vikings, man. Season 5. I love that thing. Anyway. Okay, so insert time machine. All right. What would you tell yourself back then? You're going back to 21. Okay. And, you're able to actually be in the space without causing some time continuum issues or whatever, right?
I like that call. But, most people, when they answer, I wouldn't change a thing because I would change all the reality. So,
so you're there in front of you, right? And you're able to jump, to walk up to yourself and say, something. Maybe at the time you were second guessing yourself. We don't know, right? So what would you tell yourself right then and there? Something that the SocTalk listeners can grasp and really run with, other than the amazing wealth that you just told us, but specifically to yourself.
Yeah, I think what I would tell 21-year-old JP is you're not supposed to have it all figured out right now. You are in the process of figuring it out. So the fact that you feel very empty inside right now, that's okay. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. That's what you're here learning to do. And I think why I would tell 21-year-old JP that is because I really kicked my ass with my own expectations and shaming myself for that failure, because the expectation said, JP, you're supposed to have it all figured out. You're 21 years old, for God's sakes. You're an old wise man. You've given like 2 workshops. You should have it all figured out. That was a very unrealistic expectation, I think unhealthy expectation, arrogant expectation, and it just inflicted a lot of self-punishment on me. So I think that advice that I would give 21-year-old JP would be intended to help lighten the burden of that really just kind of nasty expectation. It's like when a 5-year-old starts kindergarten, we know they're not supposed to have it all figured out. They're beginning their journey. 21-year-old JP was enrolled in a new kind of kindergarten, and I'd want to give him permission. Hey, be childlike, be curious. You're here to explore and learn, not to be an expert, not to act like you're 65 years old and doing this for 45 years. You're allowed to be a 21-year-old rookie.
Right. Actually, I like that whole principle even for a 51-year-old rookie, right? Because it's a pretty amazing lesson to learn. There's, hey, you really are just another 5-year-old right now walking into pre-K. You are. You may not know what's actually you don't know. It's not that you may not know. You don't know what's you're embarking upon, right? As of right now. So go in there, learn the steps, that are there. Follow the breadcrumbs from other people that have done it, right? And maybe you're one of those 5-year-olds that learns a little faster than the others, but maybe you're not. So don't be so hard on yourself.
Man, I love that wisdom. To me, that is some beautiful wisdom of humbleness and beginner's mind. It's like, okay, you're 51 and now you're in kindergarten again. Because here's, your 75-year-old self. What would he say to you? Like, relax, you're 51. Or JP, you're 35. You're in kindergarten. I think infinity is always bigger than we think it is. I think luckily growth, learning, development of ourself, our own evolution, that's an infinite process. Thank God it is, or else life would be pretty damn boring once we hit the glass ceiling of ourselves. Like, what's the point now? So anyway, I love your addition there. It definitely feels good to me.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to, I didn't want to weigh in on what you were saying. I felt what you were saying. So, and because I am going to hit that 51 mark soon. So I'm constantly always that 5-year-old.
Man, you're a young child for sure, man.
Yeah. Okay. So, very well done. I love that. Let's flip the script a little bit. All right. So now tell us that one aha moment that's really going to resonate with our listeners. Could you tell us that moment?
Yeah. The aha moment, it probably wasn't a snap of the fingers. It could have been, but I'm probably a slow learner. For me, the snap of the fingers was over maybe a 6-month process. And the one that comes to my mind was when I first released my first comedy video, which was about 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago. And really the aha moment was I decided to do the video. So this is the progression of it. I decided to do the video, did the video, released it, and then decided to do more comedy videos. So to me, that aha moment was a big time pattern interrupt in my mind and my constricted self, because I had been telling myself a story. I wrote the story, told myself the story, and believed the damn story that said letting my sense of humor come out on camera and being broadcast to the public, that would be terrible for business. Just really bad for business, because to be insightful, to be an emotional healing coach, to be in the spiritual world, you're supposed to be very informative, but boring. You're not supposed to be hyper. You're not supposed to be passionate. You're not supposed to be goofy. Is the story I told myself. Nobody told that to me. I'll own it. Like, part of me made up that story about who I was supposed to be. It was a big time betrayal of self. And I don't think anything had been better for my business than when I had the aha progressive moment of, I can give myself permission to be me and to let this part of me come out on camera. It's not the whole me, but it's a part that helps make up the whole of me. So nothing has been better for my business. And it was really confusing to me about, wow, here's an interesting scenario. The more I'm just being myself, the more the world is valuing me. Not the more I'm trying to be valuable for the world, not the more I'm trying to meet their expectations, not the more I'm trying to be what I think the world wants me to be, but the more I'm just being myself, the more the world is valuing me through views and my business getting flooded and recognition. And I think that was a very codependent relationship. But of course, the internalized lesson of that is that's teaching me big time to value myself, not based on what I can be or think I should be or what roles I can play, but the more I'm able to just be my weird self, whatever my weird authenticity is in the moment. So, man, I am valuable just being me. I am valuable to me and maybe valuable to other people. That's in the eye of the beholder. But just being me, like, man, that's a great aha moment. And I'm guessing when I'm 51, I'll be looking back at that and be like, oh, 35-year-old JP, you still had a lot more to go before you were really stepping into yourself. But relative to where I have been, it's been a big aha moment of stepping into myself.
Man, there is a wealth of knowledge in what you just said right now. I mean, I don't know if it's the universe, and how the universe conspires to put people in your life at the right time, at the right place, and say the right thing, right? But I'm a big firm believer over the last 6 months that the most important part in being a human being is the be. Be you, be you right now, how you are right now. And if you are you, like you were just saying, if you are you right now and being who you are, you're going to resonate. You're going to find other people that are being themselves, or even better, you might empower somebody to be themselves, and together you can just be something better,
Man,
I don't know.
It's almost so simple that our minds, I'll own it, that my mind almost refuses to believe the power in it, because it's so damn simple. Be yourself. That's easier said than done.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
it is a simple concept to kind of have as our North Star. And you mentioned something about connecting with other people who are going to be yourself, kind of like from a business perspective or artistic perspective, or maybe there's no difference. I think something interesting happens when we become more of ourselves and like kind of stop playing like, what am I supposed to be? But we just figure out more of who we are, and we express that through our offering to the world. That allows like our real self to be exposed to the world. So it gives people something real to connect to. Now, not everybody will resonate with who we really are, but the ones who do resonate with who we really are, and trust me, I think there's more of those people than we can possibly ever count. There's like 7 billion people in the world. There's a
Right.
deep well. So we give them something real to connect to. So it's like the people who they really vibe with us and our work. When we're ourselves, we're exposed to them, that they're exposed to us, and that gives them a chance to find us and connect with us. However, if we hide our authenticity so we can try to fit the mold, we are hiding. We are not giving those people anything of our real self to connect to. So we don't even give ourselves a chance to connect to our true core audience. Well, we're kind of chasing general audience, giving them maybe shallow information to connect with. I think all information, it is shallow. I don't mean to be disrespectful, because my mind holds information. I know your mind does. But I think the depth of connection comes from the beingness. When we provide our beingness, okay, now we can have a depth of connection, whether it's one people or a million people, rather than information. I think that the roots don't run too deep when we're just...
Well, you said it. I was going to say, you said it earlier when you said that you really enjoy now connecting with a group of people when you're speaking, right? So I feel, as well when I'm speaking at a Toastmasters or an event of any sort, okay, that I feel that when I am being, right, and without really expecting or worrying about the ums and the ahs and the technical parts of speaking, right, when I'm just being me, myself, that the energy is reciprocal too. Right. So, I mean, because I found out in my life that when I give a lot, right, if you're around the wrong vibe, around the wrong people with the wrong vibes, it's like you feel like you're draining into something else and you're never getting anything back. Right. And after a while, you just feel like, is this even for me? Is this individual for me? Is this relationship for me? Is this, business for me? Is this, whatever for me? Because it's just you're in the wrong vibe because you're not being you.
For sure.
Right. I mean, that's what I got from what you were saying. I don't know.
Yeah, and what I got from what you got from what I was saying, when we're being ourselves, I think that's when we're tapped into a well of like deep energy, passion, but also not just passion, but like a deep energy that can sustain us. And it is reciprocal. So when we are ourselves, I think that's the best source of energy. But it's like, then we get into what feels like the energy vampire scenarios. And maybe at times that has to do with the other person. And I also think maybe at least 100% of the time, at least one player, if not the only player in it, is us. How are we relating to ourselves in their presence? If we're cutting ourselves off from this intrinsic well of energy that comes from the, mining our beingness, and we're doing that in their presence, of course our energy is going to get low. And I still do it, but it's wonderful to notice, hey, I'm doing that. Like, what am I doing in myself? Like, I'm cutting off from my authenticity of being right now. And I'm realizing that through the biofeedback of my energy is getting drained.
Right.
And again, that's not to discount, like, some people probably can be energy vampires, but I think we are the primary energy vampire of our own self. And when we're doing it, it's a great call to action for us to connect deeper to our own beingness, as you're mentioning.
I think we answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So as we did with the failure story, okay, let's break it down to, let's say, 3 lessons, 3 succinct lessons, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3, or lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, that will actually ignite passions, accelerate people on their paths, and eliminate limiting beliefs.
Yeah. So 3 lessons that come up for me. The first is preparation. There's no shame in preparing. I think over-preparing can be a compensation for shame, and I think under-preparing can be a compensation for shame. So for me, finding the balance of preparation is important. Under-preparing or over-preparing, I think, are 2 diseases. So yeah, finding my balance of preparing. And I'm guessing that for all of us, we realize that when we've been in our field for 15 years, what it means to prepare for a talk, for instance, 15 years into the game, that's different than in our first year of the game. And then 45 years into the game, I'd imagine it'll be different. And then I will say, just again, because it's so important to me, one of the other lessons is connection. Connection with other people, with myself, that beingness that you mentioned earlier. That to me is such an important lesson. And then I have to say humbleness. Mentioned my arrogance through my failure. Humbleness for me helps connect, in my opinion, helps connect us to our true significance. I think arrogance is our ego's attempt to be significant, but I think humbleness allows us to connect with our significance. That in my airy-fairy way, I believe, comes from a source greater than ourself, a higher self, spirit self, God, whoever's up there. So I think humbleness is a gateway into true significance, where we are not the source of significance, but we're connected to the source of significance. So those lessons, I think they're a little bit abstract, yet they were very powerful for me. And I think those lessons continue to be a source of power in allowing me to express my passions.
No, man, super powerful. Especially the significance one has been really a huge tool for me in my life, because I think that I've always overly given significance to things that really shouldn't have had it. You know, a lot of energy went into it. You know, somebody said something about a post that I made, or, you know, or a video that I did, or a podcast, you know, and really, what is the significance behind that? It's just an opinion, right? It's just, you know, hey, one of the best significant things I've ever heard was, I think I heard, you know, obviously, you know, Anthony Robbins, right? I mean, I've got a video on him coming out today, actually. Do you? Oh my God, that's going to be great. So, you know, he talks specifically about, in this one instance that I saw him, he said, he was talking about, impossible, right? And he said that, you know, impossible is just somebody's opinion. Yeah. And I was like, wow. That's so true. You know, it's like somebody says, oh, this is impossible. And then you give that significance. And then because you're giving that significance, you give it power, right? So, and giving that power, you're unempowering yourself to be able to do anything that you want. Because, so for me, that's a huge lesson that you just, I mean, number 3 is actually an incredible one for me. It's been an incredible one for me too in my life. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. And I love your reflection on that. I mean, essentially what I heard you say is we really tie our hands behind our back when we make insignificant things into the significance. It's like we start worshiping something that doesn't matter. Something else I've heard Tony Robbins say is, don't sweat the small stuff, and remember, it's all small stuff. At least 99.9% of it is. Like, what's someone else's opinion? Man, that's so insignificant. And I've definitely had my times of beating myself up as I worship that opinion as though it is something greater than one person's opinion.
Man, that was powerful, super powerful.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. You know, what comes to my mind, like that comparison game, which, oh man, I do it too much. I'd love to sit here and pretend like I never compare myself to other people, but I don't have a good enough imagination to pretend that I don't. But I do think comparing ourselves to other people, I think comparison can be a destructive disease or it can be a source of inspiration. I think when we're comparing ourselves in a way where we get inspired by other people, not to try to become them or to be better than them, but we see someone who's like really like successful in one area, maybe multiple areas, and we get inspired by that. Man, that is beautiful. And the flip side of that is we need to watch out because we can compare ourselves to other people and then defeat ourselves and belittle ourselves because of it. So I think comparing in a way is kind of like, can we be conscious to use that as a source of inspiration? And we're in a relative world. Like, try not to compare yourself. Like right now I'm comparing myself to you. It's like, oh, you have glasses on and I don't. That's a comparison. It doesn't feel too self-defeating. But anyway.
It's funny. Earlier I was like, oh, he's got a beard. He's a real man.
Finally, I've stepped into real manhood. I get to call myself Dad. I am a real man. What you say?
All right, JP. Listen, we're about to go into the SocTalks, the showdown. This is where I shoot some random questions at you, and you shoot back the first thing that pops in your mind. But first, there's always a first. But first, you can find my friend and colleague on the usual suspect media places. The best place to go is awakenwithjp.com. But if you're URL challenged, you can't figure that out, just go ahead and go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you like, and just put in Awaken with JP and you'll get the guy. Okay. Definitely follow him. At first, you're going to think he's a straight up comedian and that's all he does, but he really does, and excuse the language, I'm sorry if it offends you, but he really does give a shit about humanity and people and enlightening the being and the person. And he's an incredible coach, mentor, teacher. So if he's not on your must-do list, please make him a part of that. Okay, so JP, are you ready for the showdown?
I am, and thank you for those super kind words, my friend.
Oh, man, it's true. It's true, though. Best advice you ever received?
I got to go with be yourself.
The first 80 minutes of your day?
I wake up, I do, aside from the little unspeakables in the bathroom, I do gratitude journaling, gratitude feeling meditation, journaling on what I'm actively creating in my life. So that's 10 or 15 minutes. Then I go walk my dog, come back in, then I feed him, then I go out for a walk, which is typically about 30 minutes long. And then from there, I look at my calendar and plot out my to-do list, what I'm looking to accomplish for the day. And that's, then I will make either coffee or tea. And that's about 80 minutes right there. And it has me primed. And it's kind of like, the way I look at it, I love first 80 minutes of the day. Morning routines to me are so freaking important. When we look at our lives, it's like, okay, when I'm 35 years old today, some of how I live my life today is heavily influenced by my childhood, my formative years. We call our childhood the formative years for a reason. And I think the same damn thing happens in our day. The formative minutes of our day, the formative hour of our day, in my opinion, heavily influences how we are later in our day and at the end of the day. So powerful, the first 80 minutes of our day.
All right. So besides your red hair, what's your biggest strength?
I would dare say my perspective.
Perspective. How about your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness is fear of intimacy.
Really? Wow. You just blew me away, man. I just fell back in my chair.
I apologize. It looks like it hit your head, too. Yeah, man. Fear of intimacy. I'm parts of me love intimacy and other parts of me are scared of intimacy. Into me, I think I see deeper into myself the more intimate I am with other people. And I think the greatest gift we can ever experience is being connected to ourselves. And I think the greatest fear to my human ego is learning more about who I really am. It's a bit of a paradox, but yeah, man.
Okay, so this is the coup de grace. This is the big question. Okay, so the fifth one. This is it. So you wake up in an alternate universe. Everything that you had is gone. You still have your memories, and your experience in life. All that stuff is still you. You have clothes on. Thank God. But nothing's familiar to you. You look in your wallet. You've got $500 cash. You got a smartphone. No contacts. No IDs. What do you do?
Man, yeah, I'd probably poop my pants and take $30 and go buy some new pants. Honestly, I think my first reaction would be, I want to eat. Even if I'm not comfortable, there's a source of, or even if I'm not hungry, there's a source of comfort I get from eating. So after I eat, I would want to find someone who cares. And maybe that's scrolling my phone for, help center or whatever, a healer, a coach. I want to find someone who cares so that I can become vulnerable and say, like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Tell me about what the world. And so, yeah, I would want to find a source of help.
Wow, man, that's powerful. Let me ask you a question. Now you mentioned that. How do you feel about mentorship, coaching, and this is a bonus question, and do you seek that out in yourself? Do you have that in your life at this moment?
Yes and yes. I do have it in my life, and I feel it's essential with a capital E, to be honest with you. I think there's so much acceleration that we can give ourselves if we humble ourselves enough to accept the guidance of a coach. And when I say guidance of a coach, I'm not talking about someone to tell us how to live our life. I think that is actually repels our growth, but someone who can invite us to see things in a new way and to challenge us, help us heal our old stuff, help us see our blocks that we ourselves are blind to, and someone who's been there, done that, so that we don't have to spend 20 years making the same mistakes. We can maybe in a 2-hour session absorb their 20 years worth of wisdom from their life experience so that we can essentially live a better way. So, and in my life, currently I do dream work with a dream coach. So usually about once every 2 weeks I have a session, and man, I find that powerful work. Prior, there's a main mentor I've been working with for the past 14 years or so, a powerful human being named John McMullen, just an angel inside of a human body. And I do find, just one last thing I'll say on that, I do find the frequency of working with him, it serves me better now to have it be less frequently. I've had to have some level of separation, as in like less frequent work with him. Used to be maybe once a week. Now it's maybe once every few months, because that's been an important part. I kind of like in my hero's journey of finding myself. Otherwise, being ultra close to the mentor forever, for me, it's very tempting to essentially try to replicate him. So in other words, kind of like we have to leave home to find ourselves. And I've had other, mentors that have come and gone with great purpose over the past 15 years. But that's a little bit of how the picture looks right now.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. JP Sears, a beautiful Viking of a man. And thank you for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Socrates, you're welcome, my friend. I really appreciate you for having me on, your wonderful offering to the world.
Thank you for listening to Socrates Zayas on SocTalks. Please visit us at SocTalks.com for a chance to win a $50 gift card. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Give us a great review, and Socrates will give you a personal shout out on the very next show. Boom.